Today we're going to be talking about AutoHotKey in old school RuneScape, a little bit of its history and why people use it, and we're going to cover some of the different kinds of scripts that people used to use, as well as the reasons why they use them in that way, and comparing them to how old school RuneScape's bot watch system analyzes data. So if that's not interesting to you, you can like, comment, and close the video. So AHK, which is known as AutoHotKey, has been prevalent in old school RuneScape for a very long time. Back in the days of EOC, or what's now just known as RuneScape 3, there was no real need for AHK because, simply put, Jagex just wasn't interested in banning half of their player base for botting or for real-world trading. Now I know what you're thinking, half of the player base seems like quite a stretch, but if you look at a dev blog from 2013 written by ModJackMob, who was in charge of writing old school RuneScape's current anti-cheat system, there is a quote that says, "We've also done analysis of a wide range of different techniques, which has shown well over 40% of active players have bought gold from third-party real-world trading vendors." Now that 40% were only the people that Jagex actually caught. Now back then, people would bot to get the skills that they wanted and then play the game, therefore spending more money on membership, which is good for business. In the more recent years, RuneScape 3 still has little to no people being banned, even with the most primitive auto-clickers, macro recorders, and AutoHotkey scripts. The real focus Jagex has is on stopping gold farmers and botting in old school, because that's where the majority of the player base is, and therefore there is more money to be made by people who exploit the game. These days, at least for old school RuneScape, there's a wide range of public bot clients. You might be thinking to yourself, okay, what's the point? The point is, old school RuneScape's anti-cheat, or bot watch, is an AI that's only purpose is to learn the difference between how bots play and how real, non-cheating humans play. So the way that bot watch works is that it keeps track of how long your game session is, how often you click, where you clicked, how your mouse moved from one location to the other, the location on the RuneScape map that you play in, and with that data, it builds a profile for your specific character of your playstyle and patterns. Basically, what all this means is that if you're using a script from a botting website that lots of other people have used and gotten banned with, you're going to have a similar pattern to a bot, which can lead to a ban. It doesn't matter if it's the way the bot walks from place to place or the way the mouse interacts with objects in the game. Eventually, with enough data, the bot mouse will make a pattern. Humans, as I'm sure you already know, also make patterns, but the difference between the bot's pattern and our own patterns may look very similar to us, but when there's been 10,000 bot accounts who all have a very similar pattern and have all been banned for gold farming, if you end up matching the same pattern as those bots, Jagex will assume you must be a bot. Now this is where AHK begins to shine. Even for someone who's not familiar with coding or programming at all, making a very basic AHK script is incredibly easy to learn, since there's hundreds of examples of code online and a very friendly community. With AHK, you will obviously be making a pattern, no matter how much you randomize different mouse movements and delays and locations clicked and all that good stuff. But unless you just straight up copy and paste someone else's code, you will be writing your very own specific pattern that BotWatch will need to analyze. Now the reason why this is important is because BotWatch is an AI, which means that it learns. When an account gets banned for doing something, it learns, okay, this account did these things and was a bot. But with AHK, you have your own patterns, and BotWatch needs a ton of data to determine if you're worth banning or not. And even with using code that's made by other people, people that use AHK tend to be more careful because generally they're using their mains and don't want to get banned, so they take the proper precautions. Where scripts generally have people just suicide botting 24/7, which creates obvious patterns and gives BotWatch a lot of data to learn from. Now I'm not sure exactly when it became prevalent, but I believe it was around the middle of 2015, osbuddy, which was basically the most mainstream third-party client at the time, added a feature called mouse keys that when enabled replicated the Windows mouse keys function, which lets your mouse move a certain amount of pixels across the screen, as well as allowing you to click in-game by pressing specific buttons. So for example, say you wanted to drop a lot of items very quickly. Back then you couldn't shift drop items, so you would hover your mouse over an item, press one button to right click, press another button to move 35 pixels down to the drop option, and then press another button to actually click the drop option. Now this might seem like a lot of work to just drop one item, but people that were competitive for leaderboard ranks and concerned about getting the maximum XP an hour discovered that if you did this properly, it would allow you to very quickly drop a lot of items, Now, this was especially useful for things like fishing, woodcutting, or mining where you just want to power level as quickly as possible. Jagex never really took an official stance against it other than saying, if you use automation, you will get banned, which is how the so-called one-to-one rule came to be. The one-to-one rule was really just people saying, hey, if I press a one button and one action happens, that doesn't qualify as automation. And as far as BotWatch was concerned, people very, very rarely got banned for this. Now, the way that this evolved from osbuddy's mouse keys and into AHK being used is people realized that they could make the mouse move any custom distance they wanted just by using AHK to emulate mouse keys, which was already emulating Windows mouse keys. And basically that's how AutoHotKey became prevalent in old school RuneScape. Jagex basically said as long as it's not automated, you probably won't get banned, but if you do, you're out of luck. At one point in the game, I'd say probably the top 75% of players who cared about efficiency were using some form of AHK. Now, one of the major issues with this was Jagex couldn't really tell if people were macroing or not if they decided to make their script automated. And there were more than a few occasions of people streaming and blatantly using things that we will call red area scripts, such as instantly using their special attack or instantly eating to full HP if their health got too low. Now, there were other people who used scripts that we will call yellow area scripts because they were not automated, but some of them were so advanced that it would just blow your mind. They could do anything from diagonal movements to scrolling the mouse wheel to do a series of actions to just having certain skills be almost completely brainless. One of the main reasons people didn't like these kinds of scripts is because the people who made them would often sell them or keep them completely to themselves so they'd be the only ones getting insane amounts of experience. For example, with some of these yellow area scripts, I could just drag my finger across the keyboard and press QWERTYUIOP, and that would open the bank, withdraw all the things that I needed, make a full inventory of potions, click on each potion spot, and then open the bank back up and deposit everything. There were scripts for everything from blackjacking with your mouse scroll wheel and enchanting crossbow bolts for 1 million XP an hour, to fletching darts and feathers together with just clicking 2 to 3 buttons without even having to move your wrist. Eventually, at the start of 2017, Jagex took an official stance saying you may now only use your operating system's official default mouse keys program unless it is to remap a key to another button, which means that pressing a button and having your mouse move across the screen was no longer okay, but rebinding, for example, your F keys from F1 to 1 or F2 to 2 was the only acceptable usage. But in order to deter people from actually continuing to use AHK, this is when they added one of the best updates of all time, which was allowing players to hold shift down and then click on an item to drop it. Now, this was a great update, but nobody was getting banned for AHK now any faster than they were before. It was just an official statement to clarify exactly what was considered against the rules. So the only thing about this is that they waited a bit too long. There's already tens of thousands of people with a program on their computers that's entire purpose is to automate repetitive tasks. So what happens next? Of course, people begin to automate repetitive tasks. Some people making scripts that are honestly just straight up impressive, like autofighters or motherload mine bots. But anyways, let's fast forward to September 2019. Sirpugger is still extremely popular and receiving insane amounts of views on his bot hunting series, and one day he uploads a video called The Bot That Is Ruining Old School RuneScape. In this video, he does an interview with the owner of one, if not the most popular AHK scriptwriters at the time. And they talk for a bit about how their overall ban rates for all their users combined is basically almost non-existent. And they go on for a bit talking about how undetectable and how great AutoHotKey botting is, as well as Sirpugger showing random high scores accounts of people with 50 million plus fletching XP, suggesting that these people are using this unbannable bot. And this is where red area scripts got way more popular than ever before. Suddenly people knew where to find high quality bots that gold farmers weren't using, allowing them to fly under the radar if they were safe enough. These AutoHotKey scripts were fully automated for fletching, magic, fishing, hunting, pickpocketing, smithing, herb lore, nightmare zone, and they were easily accessible. Even today, a year later, these scripts are still widely popular and from what I've heard are still a decently low ban rate, just due to the nature of the people who use them and how they use them and their combination of generally botting more conservatively to stay safe. I'll be making a few videos that touch on how to make your own AutoHotKey scripts and teaching how to remap your keys, how to use custom locations and random sleeps, how to use image searches and color searches to click on the right things, and anything else you guys might be curious about.